Yeah, BJ, we back on, man. You can kick the introduction off if you want on what we doing.
First and foremost, I want to say peace and blessings to everybody that's tuned in and listening, taking the time out to listen to what we're seeing. And this is part 3 to us talking about the relationship between the Mexicans and the blacks. And before we begin, I would like to say if I offend anybody with the conversation, then that's on me, and I apologize now because that's not my intentions. The intentions is just to tell history, and hopefully we can fix the problems that's, amongst us as gang members and so on and so forth. So with that said, so kind of where we left off at was how things started off in 92, started to changing. Tell us about how things was for you around that time, like the relationships and the things you started seeing in 92 on up.
So, 92, 93, going back to what you were saying, with at first y'all was able to do head ups before it went to just all out melees. And I wanted to also touch on that because you absolutely right. 92, 93, I remember Juvenile Hall gelling, homie. And I remember when it first started kind of kicking off with the racial thing, when I had fell in there, they was this right before they started really segregating us, bringing the blacks out to eat, then bringing the Hispanics out to eat. At first, we was sharing rooms with each other, cool with each other, gelling with each other, laughing and kicking it, and we all sharing war stories and hood history at our youthful age. But I remember when it really kicked off with a trip, I remember they started passing the kite around, homie, and I want to say I was on Unit TV or something, possibly, when they started passing the kite around, and they wanted every Hispanic, Mexican that shared a juvenile cell with a black. They wanted them to get down with us, homie. So I think it was me, maybe a Primo B from Blackstone, the homie from Scottsdale, maybe one of the Godfathers from a PDL. I think we all wind up chunking them with our roommates, homie, if I'm not mistaken. And I know I did. I know my roommate, I think he was either from Ghetto Boys or 38th Street, but I know he was from the downtown area. But like I said, we had been laughing, joking, and all that. And I remember one day he had got that little kite, read it, looked at me, and was like, "We got to get down." And I was like, looked at him like, "Get down? Like we've been functioning and kicking it. Like what you mean?" He like, "Man, we got to get down. This letter saying we got to get down. It's like some racial tension." But I know he was like a little thicker size than me and had me by a little height. So I'm still like, man, this fool, what this fool pulling my leg? So I remember squaring up, and I was like, let me see how serious dude is. I threw a jab probably at his chest, and he wound up like holding his head back and going in, homie. And we just started bodying each other up in there, and that was it, homie. And then after that, they wind up like kind of like segregating us up. But now on the street, it wasn't so tense like that because I remember, me going to a continuation school, like between the Inglewood Neighborhood Power Rules and the Centinela Park families. We had at the continuation school, me, the homegirl Lady Chaos, and them from Nella Parks. We had Hispanics that went there. Homegirl from 18th Street, Via, I believe, or something like that. So it was Hispanics there, and I remember me getting sick, and they all struck up on a big old cord. And wind up the homegirl Chaos wind up getting it to me. But so 93, it wasn't having really kicked there yet on the street, man. I'm gonna hand it back to you, BJ. So you say in 93, you get to the penitentiary, you say, how was it? Or you get to YA, I mean.
No, I had got to the pen.
Okay, the penitentiary.
I left YA in '92,
Okay.
and when I got to prison, I noticed that things in prison were different from the streets. You know, I started noticing the separation. You know, I started noticing how things work. And you know, before I went to prison, I never heard of North Angel. So
Right.
when I got to prison, I started running into different little things. Like when I was in YA, the Bay Areas used to be running with the Crips. You know, they used to be doing what the Crips do. Not all of them, but the majority of them did. And when I got to the pen, the Bay Areas was like, some was just doing them, being non-affiliates, and then some hung with the Bloods.
Right.
And so forth and so on. The North Indians was like with the blacks, you know what I mean? And the whites was with the Southsiders at times. Not all the time, but at times they was. And me seeing this setup compared to the streets, it's kind of mind-boggling that coming from down south, that when you go to prison, the dudes that you ride with down south end up being considered an enemy, and then we riding with dudes that's up north that I never met before. It was kind of like mind-boggling.
Right.
But yet, the Southsiders that I knew, like the ones that I knew from the streets, you know, we kept a tight bond or whatever, but at the same time in prison, the rules are different from the streets. And based on the rules of being different from the streets, they had to ride with their people. Meaning at times, you know, they couldn't tell me like it's on with us and y'all. You know what I mean?
Right.
It just had to go. And when that started happening, like when I started getting in rides with blacks and Mexicans, it kind of like scarred me on messing with Mexicans. You know, I was kind of bitter because I got hurt in a riot in the county jail. So I was kind of bitter about that. Don't get me wrong. Like if I seen some essays from Florence or B13, the ones that I knew that fuck with the homies, I was like cool with them. But overall, just being the South Side, I was like kind of against them. Like I didn't really socialize with them. You know, like my first few prison stops, I didn't make no friends with them, even if they was my next door neighbor. I didn't even try to get to know them. You know, I just paid attention to them. I didn't trust them no more. You know, I was in my feelings. I was bitter. And I looked at it like, what I look like, you just tried to kill me, and then I turn around and be cool with you. And as time went on, towards like the end of the 90s going into the 2000s, that's when I started hearing about, like, you know, Bloods and Crips being killed by Mexicans, and people started sending pictures, like, for instance, like in Compton, most of the Mexicans and blacks that got along when I left the streets, over the years, every time you turned around, they started beefing. People had started writing nigger kill on the wall. And when the homies was sending pictures of that stuff to me, by me seeing it for myself, it really kind of like put a bad taste in my mouth, because I was like, damn, you know, these are the same dudes we ate and grew up with, just like the Crips. And now here it is now, we into it with them, and I don't know what for. We just at odds, you know? And it kept going until I got in the shoe. Once I got in the shoe, it's kind of like you forced to become friends, because you in the hole a long period of time, and sometimes you might be by yourself. So your next door neighbor might be a skinhead, and then on the other side it might be a south side or whatever. But anyway, being in that hole, it was a chance, an opportunity to talk to some of the Mexicans and some of the skinheads and find out what the problem is and why we beef and where the beef started at and this and that.
Right.
And through learning all this, I realized that we all in the same boat of doing what we have to do. it don't be nothing personal. Sometimes it take one ignorant fool to do something. Just like I learned that a lot of Mexicans do not consider themselves as niggas killer. They consider themselves as a nigga they damn self.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's why a lot of them use the term. They don't mean no disrespect. They use the term because they consider themselves allies of us. You know what I mean?
Right.
They feel that we all one.
The underprivileged word.
It take one. Right. You know, so our language is their language. But sometimes it takes one person to, like, you know, not understand Spanish, and instead of asking how you say something in Spanish, a brother might go clowning them, say something out of pocket, and then when they say something back, a cat might get in his feelings, and then you got certain cats that be like, well, a Mexican that never whoop me head up, but when the Mexican whoop him, he the one gonna start everything.
Right.
It'd be the same thing versus the Mexican. You know, it might be a Mexican that be like, won't no black ever whoop me, but then when he get whooped on, first thing he do is turn into Sammy Sam and shoot up everything and start shit that people can't take back. You know? But that's what I learned from all that. And like I said, by me coming to the pen, I was able to meet some older Mexicans. And one of the ones that I sent you a picture of, his name is Chato from Montevilla. You know, when I got a chance to kick it with that dude,
I put his picture up here so everybody can. I put the picture up here, dog, so everybody can kind of get a glimpse what you talking about.
Right, that's cool. Yeah, that dude right there, he from Montevilla, his name Chato. He's a damn good dude, man. And when I met that dude, he changed my life because he showed me write-ups where he done rode with blacks since he been in prison against police and all type of stuff. You know what I mean? Where he done stood side by side with brothers. You know what I mean? And hunger strikes, all type of stuff. And people can say what they want, but I learned a lot from it because
this call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
In conversation is, whenever you got to do battle with somebody, never take it personal, because when you sit up and put on that uniform and call yourself a gang member, a blood, crip, or just even a criminal in general, you know, you just a all-around criminal, you don't gang bang. You take on a job, and when you take on that job, your job is to ride.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Right, fulfill that title.
Ride for whatever belief you believe in.
Right.
Right. And I really appreciate that dude, man. That dude, a phenomenal dude. He's sick right now, so those that know him, you know, send that man some love, send that man a card or something, and let him know, you know, y'all thinking about it right now. He's kind of sick, you know, the OG, older, you know what I mean? But he's a phenomenal dude, and he's worth talking about. I'm going to let you talk about your experience from that point on up. I'll be right back.
I got you. Yeah, man, to take it back to like what BJ was saying, homie. 93 where I left off at. Okay, so 93, 94, 95, we still turfing it, doing our thing. You know, you might see a Hispanic or two. They might have been gelling and might got up under the sedation of the racial thing, like a few of our homies was gelling and coming home from penitentiaries and being in racial riots and bringing that hostility to the streets. They was like low-key baby spoon feeding us the trauma that they experienced. They was baby spoon feeding us on the streets to trauma. So we was lightweight feeling it, but it still haven't really went there. So 95, 96, homie, the hostility is finna go there. You know what I'm saying? Throughout different B-Dog communities, inside different Crip communities. It's about to go there. You know, it's at the boiling point. And I remember being in the county, Los Angeles County jail with a couple dudes from Inglewood 13, homie. One of them named Biggie, and I forgot the other dude name, homie. But anyway, at this particular time in the Los Angeles County
Thank you for
Jail,
using Global Tel Link.
some of the essays and blacks that, shared hoods and banged on the street together, we'll see each other in the Los Angeles County Jail. So at this particular time that I was, fighting my case, me and my homeboy LSD, it was a few I-13s in there, homie. So we had kind of missed the street hostility that was going into effect because we was inside the Men's Central County Jail. But I remember Biggie from I-13, I think he was like, feeding lunch or something on a tier on the road that I was on. And I remember he pulled the crate up, had a seat, and we wound up talking about what's possibly finna go down. We didn't talk about men and nothing. We didn't talk about no peace thing. We just talked about the new transformation that's finna go down with the power play inside the community, homie. And basically, like I said, I had came up with a few of them, knew Biggie and them from the streets. So it wasn't no thing with us cutting up and kind of like, alerting each other on where this thing finna go, homie. And that didn't change our relationship or nothing. So, yeah, BJ, you back with us. So I was just bringing everybody up to speed to 93, 94, 95 to like 96. We got to seeing a little hostility a little bit, homie, within different B-Dall communities, because I know the Jungles was having a feud with the 18th Streets. So different turf, along with Crip Hoods, was starting to had a escapade with the Mexicans at that time. And I was letting people know at our time, I was in the Los Angeles County Jail, but I was hearing about the hostility that was going on. I remember an I-13 named Biggie and the other homie from I-13 at that time, they had pulled the seat up and we was cutting it up about this stuff. But yeah. So when 96 hit, it goes all out, homie. And you say in 2000, like in the late 90s, you got to hearing about all the stuff that was going on, correct?
Right.
And so,
I got to hearing about everything, via seeing pictures, people taking pictures next to the writing on the wall, showing what was said and this and that. And like I said, it was kind of like surprising and hurtful because all your life you always have people with negative influence. What I mean by negative influence is before it even started, you always have certain homies that always, the Mexican this, the Mexican that, always watching them, And I'm quite sure you got Crips like that, and I'm quite sure you got Mexicans like that, always watching other people and predicting chaos before it happens. And sometimes you don't want to see things happen, but when they happen, it look like a person knew what they talking about. But the problem that we had as kids compared to now is you don't never get to the bottom of things. You just hear something and just go with the flow. And like I said, being in the prison system, that's something that I learned not to do. Take people's word at things. If somebody tell me something, I go investigate it instead of just taking their word for it. If I grew up with you and this and that, your word didn't mean nothing to me. I take it and go investigate what's going on. That way I can get to the bottom of what the problem really is. Right. And a lot of times, I can't speak for the streets because I wasn't out there. But in here, a lot of the times, the problem with the Mexicans was it'd be something small that turned into something big. I'm going to give you an example of sometimes you might have a Mexican be like, you can go tell my people if you want to, I owe you some money. They ain't going to do nothing but send me on the mission. You would have people make comments like that. And then when a person make a comment to you like that, you feel like, well, fuck it, I'm going to take matters in my own hand and go and fire shit up. And then when that happens, a riot ended up happening, and when that riot ended up happening, it didn't keep going for a year or two, because we be on lockdown so much that we come out one day and be right back down. So it ended up going on for a year or two until people get a chance to sit down and say, man, that's some foolishness. Let's go and cut this out.
Right.
And when I got to Pelican Bay, that was one of the things that we did up there. We all came together. Most of the OG blacks, most of the OG Crips, Bloods, OG Mexicans, and white boys, we all came together and was like, we getting tired of doing decades in the shoe, just sitting in the hole doing nothing, homie, getting old, getting back problems and kidney failure and all type of shit from lack of exercise, So we came together and was like, from here on out, we're going to start discussing problems before we let it get out of line. And then when I came out the shoe, we came up with this dude named Jose Perez that came up with the idea. Him and it was a brother from the Bay. I forgot the dude's name. They had came up with the idea of starting some type of think tank instead of just doing it like we was doing it in the hole, do it on the main line. And so the peace group was created to have a platform where we could talk about issues and discuss them with the younger generation and try to fix a lot of problems in prison. That way we can function and make it to the house, without us having to run around trying to kill each other. Because, this is the time that they letting us go home. And it's not always like that, In a couple of years or something.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And feel like people in prison need to stay in prison forever until they die. So right now we have to do what's necessary to get ourselves back out to the streets. And so in them conversations, that's when I learned more about the Mexicans, the Mexican pride, and what they stand for. And when I learned what they stand for, I realized we all stand for the same thing, except for they stand for the betterment of their people, and the Bloods and Crips stand for the betterment of black people. It's just what it is. So we can't take nothing personal when we get into war with them and just keep it going forever. Sometimes we have to get to the bottom of why this war started. That's why I said, with us communicating with Crips like how we doing now, doing this podcast, and different Crips and Bloods chiming in, them are our allies, and we have to communicate with them, and that's what keep our neighborhood safe and keep our little homies growing up playing sports, and one day we can see them on TV because we keeping them lines of communication open. When you close the lines of communications, that's what starts the war between the blacks and the Mexicans.
Right.
What did your experience like from that point on, from 96 on? What did you experience?
So okay, homie, our experience, okay. Now in the city, you like I say, I was in the county jail hearing about it. Now I get out, physically see it, and I ain't gonna lie, I'm still in shock and in disbelief that the turf possibly is finna go up with these dudes, for the simple fact my youthful age was spent with most of these dudes for years, homie. So it's still like a trip that we finna have a whole in-house turnover, homie. So I'm hearing about it, and just to inform people, sometime, homie, a lot of these beefs are stored behind our craftiness, scandalousness, or a lot of the young homies come out here unseasoned and messing up the game, homie, fucking up the game, being unfair, being disrespectful and rude because they not cut from that cloth, or dudes not lacing dudes on respect, homie. Like how I came up, our era was big on respect. This new era, they don't care about no respect. So this was bringing on the causes of these beefs, homie. And then by us sharing a next door hood with the Queen Street, with the Inglewood Queen Street Bloods, and us it's kind of inevitable for one another to dodge each other beef because we so close to each other. So it don't matter if a Queen Street kicked off something in good standings or in bad standings. We in it, homie, because we so close, homie, and dudes hang out together. As well, if a neighborhood Paru do something in good standings or in bad standings, it's going to reflect on them, homie. So that's kind of how the tradition wind up going down the drain, homie. You know, probably with some unseasoned young dudes and the craftiness of the game, homie. Because a lot of dudes from my era, we knew how to play by the books, homie. But when we started getting these new members, and a lot of dudes of my bracket stopped being hands-on, homie, these dudes started filtering the way they want to bang and talk and carry themselves a whole opposite when another race and culture is still sticking to the script of their mannerism and their whole style, homie. So that's where it left, man. That's where it left off with the 96 going into it. The Queen Street Bloods, the Inglewood neighborhood Paru feuding with a Hispanic ally gang inside our community that we banged with from the late 70s. You know, so that shit had ended it. And we wind up after time of the homies, you know, feuding with the Hispanics, you know, popping back and forth. They wind up a setup wind up. I think Alonzo from Street TV, if I ain't mistaken. He wind up hooking something up, man, and Skip, where the Inglewood neighborhood Pyrus and the I-13s along with Queen Street Bloods, we had started trying to sit down at the table and kind of like, you know, build a discussion, like you said, on why things started and how things can possibly end, homie. And I remember sitting in the seat, homie, and I took a lot of scrutiny behind that, homie, because even though we feel like things is for good causes, you still got victims from both sides. You still got homies that's dealing with egotistic ways about themselves or ourselves on who he think he is or who they think we are. But then I had to dig deeper and we all had to talk like, it ain't about us, homie. It's about the kid that's dribbling the damn basketball, like you said, trying to be somebody we can watch on TV. It's about the Hispanic kid carrying his baseball in his glove going to the port so we could see him probably paying for the Dodgers or somebody team that we like. It ain't for us, it's for them, homie. So when we got to trying to talk on that level, it kind of went for a minute, homie, you know. And like I said, I done had words with a few homies, few young homies, just trying to get the message across on what we trying to do. It ain't about saving our lives, it's about saving the youth, the kids inside the hood that get mistaken for our drama, homie. So, and like I said, that saved the gang of lives for a minute, homie. And on the flip side of that, after that played out, you know, the drama went back into current existing, homie, with us and the Mexicans, which is the I-13s inside the city of Inglewood, falling out here and there, homie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
And, you know, man, shout out to the city, homie. Yeah, shout out to the city, homie, both sides, homie. You know, shout out to the L.A. community with the Hispanics, Blacks, Bloods, and Crips, that eventually, homie, we can get to the bottom of respect, homie, to clear all this up, homie, because without respect, it's going to be ongoing, homie. BJ, I'm going to hand it back to you, loved one. Anything you want to add to it, come back and add to it.
Yeah, just open up the communication, and I love all of y'all, and thanks for y'all taking the time to listen to us today, man. And as always, peace and blessings, man. Thank y'all for listening.
Man, 89, yeah.
Learn something from the conversation.
For real, man. 89 on up, homie. G stuff, not ye stuff. With On the Edge with BJ, APB. And we just gonna keep sending it, man. Our opinion, our version on history, and to other homies and other racists. Tap in and chime in and, you know, say something about all this, homie. Shout out to everybody that stay rocking with the channel, homie, and we gonna keep sending it, homie. I'm out.